What is going on, guys? It is Adam aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Today, we have a lot to go over in a short amount of time, so let's get right into it. Putin says that Russia will develop its nuclear arsenal to preserve global balance of power. So as far as the nuclear subject, I know that I've seen comments and I've seen people that say, oh, you know, it's never going to get to the nuclear point. I sure hope it doesn't. But what many of us believe that if it does ever get to a nuclear point, it won't be a weapons of, or it won't be a mutually assured destruction kind of situation. It will be a single nuke or a couple nukes, similar to, you know, something like what happened in Japan with World War II. Only it wouldn't be the end of the war. It would be the beginning of it. It would be something that was such a massive event that is literally burned into people's brains for the rest of their lives, that changes how people think. At least how people think in this generation. Now, the people of now are so far away from that last World War. In fact, most of the World War veterans are passing away. Many people who lived during that actual generation, they are getting close if they are not already passed away. So we are very far and disconnected from that kind of era of actually having these worldwide wars, these global conflicts, these world wars. So again, this is scary stuff, but you shouldn't be scared. This is something that many of us here, again, we're prepared for as many scenarios as we can be. We're not all, Zuckerberg with a $270 million mansion bunker thing, but again, you can start out small and you can get, prepared a step at a time. And I bet you, even if you have a couple gallons of water in your pantry, you'll be better off than probably 90% of people. President Vladimir Putin said on Friday that Russia would keep developing its arsenal of nuclear weapons, the world's largest, as a deterrent, and would supply the army fighting in Ukraine with the latest weaponry and drones. Putin was speaking in the Kremlin at a ceremony attended by graduates of Military Police and Intelligence Service Academy. It says, quote, "We plan to further develop the nuclear triad as a guarantee of strategic deterrence and to preserve the balance of power in the world." Russia's nuclear triad is a reference to its land, sea, and air-launched nuclear missiles. Now, first of all, the balance of power is already falling out of balance. And many people don't want to admit this, but some of our adversaries have not only done a good job of infiltration in a lot of their enemies and our allies, but they have also been basically trying to play catch-up and trying to play surpass for years now. At the same time, it seems like we have even people in our own countries trying to screw us over from the inside. Little things getting chipped away one step at a time. And it seems like it's for this grand goal that all of us kind of know what it's about, but really we're never going to get the full details on. It's kind of like how, the stuff with JFK back in the day. Obviously, from recent comments by our prez, it's like you pretty much know who did it, and you pretty much know who was behind it, but there's just never that full confirmation. Just that last part is redacted, so you just really don't know. I think that most of us know what's about to happen. I think that most of us know who's really behind it, and I think most of us know what our next 5 years is going to look like. But again, it's just that little far off to where we can't see it. So we're going to talk about this balance of power. We're actually going to show you what has been going on in other places in the world and why. This is really important that people start paying attention to the news and especially to the documents that are getting put out by governments. It is really, really important right now. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, let's get into it. Over on the website, you can find a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we're going to show you here today. Just go to marfooglenews.com, look for this thumbnail, and then click on it. You will actually find a full source list for everything we are about to show you here today. On top of that, there is a whole list of great people over on marfooglenews.com/friends. Just click that third tab over, and you'll find all of our great moderator team. Make sure to welcome all of the new people. If you see somebody that you don't recognize, just say hi, check in how their day's going. Obviously, with how many people think that we're at the end of the world, it's probably a nice thing just to say hi. So let's bring in my co-host / internet brother. Speaking of saying hi, how are you doing and what's going on?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I am doing just fine.
So it's kind of crazy to see the headlines of, the balance of power revolving around Russia. We've been talking about this for the last week, how we actually think that the real balance of power lies in Xi's hands. Xi is the actual leader, and Russia and North Korea are more part of Xi's plan. And here's one thing I think of is maybe they all think that they're going to get the best deal out of this. Like, I could see Xi, if he did want to kind of have number one spot over the world and have power over the world, and say in the future they have as many bases as the U.S. does, that they start trying to take over. I could see them not trying to even bother with parts of the world and saying, hey, Russia, you have that part. Iran, you have this part. Venezuela, you get to keep down there. You get to, that they dole it up power-wise. It would make sense that they all think that they're going to be head honcho at whatever table they're sitting at. But when it comes down to it, it really seems like Xi is the one calling the shots for this alliance of evil, or axis of evil, or whatever they're calling it now. Dex, what do you think about the as far as he's saying to preserve the balance of power? Basically, he already has the biggest stockpile. Why does he need to do this? That kind of doesn't make sense, right?
Well, on some aspects, he may even need to build up to balance himself against Xi, for that matter. We know, as we've reported, Xi's going to be building more and more nukes. I think it was 100 plus this past year. They're expecting him to have more than America, and then by the end of this decade, which is not that far off, another 6 years. That's a significant amount of nukes. So it sounds to me like everybody's just going all in on let's build up the arsenal again. The more we have, the stronger we are, the more safe we are, according to the words they're speaking. So it creates balance, let alone the fact that it just creates more opportunity for something to go wrong and great catastrophe to happen. And that's what's the scary part of this. But at the same time, they're pushing it. They're pushing it on all sides, including our side, the West.
Absolutely. And thank you real quick to Carlton Sutton. Thank you so much for your support this week. And Stephen McMahon, Andrew Golden, thank you for your support. Thank you for supporting Independent. Julie Pilkerton and Nevitz. Not to forget about Kat, of course, Gillian Mason, and Stephen McMahon. Hopefully you're doing well. I don't know if you're at work yet. Thank you so much for stopping by last night. And let's go back over to the map. Of course, Putin is accusing NATO of creating a security threat for Russia in Asia. Dex, do you want to go over what he means by that?
Yeah, so he's been laying out a lot of words. His tour had all sorts of press opportunities, and even back in when he got back to the Kremlin, he's been saying lots of things. So this one comes out of, I believe, fresh from the tour when he was in Vietnam. But he was specifically saying, quote, "We see what is happening in Asia. A block system is being put together." And he is talking specifically about the West, talking specifically about equivalency of NATO. He goes on to say NATO is already, quote, moving there to Asia as if to permanent place of residence. This, of course, creates a threat to all countries in the region, including the Russian Federation. We are obligated to respond to this and will do it, he says. So pretty strong words again. This was obviously talking it up with his partners in Vietnam, talking specifically to the rest of the Asian countries when he puts out words like this. And, painting that picture of the West and NATO as being the bad guys and that they're forming alliances throughout Asia to counter them. Again, as we've said, everybody's picking sides. Now, Vietnam, on the other hand, some people call them the bamboo country because they literally flow with whatever. Like, our president was in Vietnam like less than a year ago. He was there visiting, and now Putin is there visiting. So, and we buy so much goods and stuff from Vietnam. So they want to keep America happy just as much as they want to keep Putin and China happy, even though they have a huge dispute in the South China Sea with China. So they tend to play all sides. So I'm not putting a lot of weight in Vietnam itself because they do just go with the flow, so to speak, whichever. They're kind of like India or even worse, like Turkey. But nonetheless, his words are what's important and what he's saying in that region and the laydown that he's putting about NATO.
And alarmed by China's growing military power, the United States has pushed for NATO to share expertise and build ties with countries such as Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. So these are not the normal NATO countries. Now, in his comment of saying that it says that NATO is already moving there to Asia as if to permanent place of residence. So is he basing that off of what we have declared publicly? Is that off of public information? Obviously, we've had some drills. We have some things going on. We have the Asian NATO, the Trilateral Alliance thing going on. But that's not, the Asian countries, they did call it the Asian NATO at first, but, that's not supposed to be like straight up NATO. It'd be kind of crazy if you saw NATO, floating around the South China Sea unless Russia was there or Russia's very, very close allies. I guess now that would include China. But so are we moving things there? If that is referencing the latter part, that would be confirmation to me from what you guys are saying, the Fugel fam military members. A lot of you are saying that there's crazy, crazy deployments going on. Most of it was to Europe over the last month, but now there's South China Sea deployments going on. There's denials of any kind of leave. A lot of the military are not getting their leave, and they're not being told when they can get leave. Of course, leave is something that they can deny, and they can say, hey, you'll have to take it later, or if you don't get it, they end up I think they have to compensate you in some way, or they have to compensate you because it's in your contract or in your, whatever. I don't know if they call it a contract, but in your agreement with the military, right? So what is actually happening here? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and we'll check in on you in just a little bit. In fact, make sure to have your X open tonight. If you do, X is working tonight. Last night I was trying to do some polls on X for the first time and first night, and it just like straight up went down for me. So it has been working good. So we'll do that, and then North Korea is building a border wall. Satellite images reveal. So what is actually happening with this? This is, I guess, some are torn on what the heck is actually happening. And just to do some, it's not house cleaning. As you guys know, I've talked to you guys for the last like 5-6 days. I got a piece of glass in my foot. It got like really bad. I tried to take the glass out. There was still a part in it. To add insult to injury, I ended up stubbing my toe while my foot was messed up, and I ended up breaking my pinky toe and the toe next to it, and it was actually somewhat shattered, my pinky toe was. and my leg was swollen up, and I thought, oh, maybe it's just the toe, or maybe it's just something else. But I guess it did the cut on the bottom of my foot from the glass. I didn't get all the glass out, and when I cleaned it, maybe I didn't clean it well enough. I don't know, but it started swelling up, and it got bad, or it didn't get badly infected. I didn't see like red lines going up, but I did feel pain all the way up to my like calf and on the side where my tendon is. And then I felt it in my knee, and then I felt it like up my thigh. So I went to the ER, and I spent all night last night, which was a crazy experience because when I got there, I got right in. Like within 20 minutes, I was in. First time ever in like 10 years, getting in super quick. And I was even thinking last night, oh, is it a full moon? I think tonight is the full moon. But got in super quick, and I thought, man, this is going to be the quickest trip ever. Like right as it hit midnight, all the craziness started happening. So before I got to see the doctor, all of a sudden things just went haywire. I mean, there was this one guy who got brought to the front door. He had a cut on his hand, and his friend was holding him up by his armpits, and he was just like dragging, like he wasn't moving. The nurse comes out and says, "Are you shot?" And he's like, "No, I have a cut on my hand." She's like, "Get in the wheelchair." And he's like, "I can't feel my legs. I can't move my legs." And she's like, "Yeah, you can." And she's like grabbing him, putting him in the chair. Well, it turns out she was like super rude about it, actually. She gets him into the wheelchair, and I think he couldn't feel his legs. And I think it was because of the hand cut, because he lost so much blood that he didn't have blood in his legs and he wasn't feeling them. So that was like how the night started off. An older woman broke her neck last night. I mean, it was just, I've had a lot of ER trips because I have very few years had insurance. It's not like we are taken care of by the platforms here in that right. It's not like we get a plan or a 401k or something. But I was like, I've never seen that much crazy action at an ER room. Like, and I've seen some stuff. But it's like usually like one thing or two things. It was like 10 things that night. The older woman broke her neck and was like feisty. She had a neck brace and was like trying to fight with the resident people. I mean, it was just nuts. But yeah, got some antibiotics, Cephlexin or whatever, and but I just wanted to let you guys know I'm not 100%, and I haven't been for like 4 or 5 days. I am just this is a perfect point, and I wish I would have followed I wish I would have followed my advice. I should have been on antibiotics like 2 or 3 days earlier. But it is my solid advice to myself, which I'm going to take from now on. Always have, and if you can, again, I don't know which state or country you're in, but if you have the ability to get yourself antibiotic, get yourself some antibiotics on hand. Because I can only imagine if something like this happened and there wasn't an ER to go to. Now, I may have had to wait 8 hours or something, or 4 hours before I even saw somebody, but I was able to see somebody. And I think about if all this stuff goes down, what are we going to do when the power goes out? If the power goes out, and what are we going to do if we don't have all this stuff, you know? And what do we do if our kid gets hurt, or, you know, you have somebody who's elderly and you're taking care of them? If that woman broke her neck in a situation where there was no hospital or there was no situation like that, people can't fathom that. People cannot fathom a world war happening. They can't fathom an invasion. They literally get angry if you suggest it. But look at what is happening. Look at the people coming in right now. Look at everything that's going on right now. I think people are almost in denial that something is going on right now. Have you guys noticed that? I think that it's because fear turns into anger. And the easiest way to explain this is if you've ever seen somebody get jump scared out of a garbage can. There's a famous clip. The guy jumps out of the garbage can. The guy gets scared, and his first response instinctually is to punch the guy in the garbage can, and he knocks the guy in the garbage can out. Guy jumps out with a mask, pow, pop. It's like it's from fear to then anger. And I think that that's what's happening with people right now. On top of all of the other division, on top of the constant meddling in our emotions and in what we think with these algorithms, I really wish that more people really understood how much these social medias are changing all of our views and even making us argue in our own communities. Everything is tailored to you. So think about that. When you think about the world and you think you've got this like really good grasp on the world, there's even apps that can break down like what news you're viewing, what sources you're viewing and stuff like that, and it shows your bias. It's like everybody is biased right now. It actually takes effort and time to try to be unbiased, and not even like as a news person, as somebody who's reading the news, for you to try to do that. It's not just, watching Fox and then watching CNN and being pissed off by both. It's actually going out and looking at the information and going against what you would normally say. I just believe that because these are my people, right? I think right now more than ever, we need to like take everything with a grain of salt and realize that something big is coming. So I hope that people, and I'm praying for everybody out there, especially with families and little ones, I'm praying that this doesn't happen. I really pray that we are wrong. But I don't think that that's going to be the case. And I hope that people are starting small. You don't have to, be a Zuckerberg, but you should be getting yourself water and food, the basics. And then North Korea building this wall, everything that's going on with North Korea, it just seems to me like they're setting up for some sort of event. So here's my prediction, and who knows? We'll probably come back to this and check back in. My prediction is something is going to happen, and it's going to be similar to what happened on October 7th, but it's going to be regarding South Korea. And something horrific may happen, right? Something like this. It's only speculation. And then that's going to trigger something much bigger. It's going to trigger other parties. Then it's going to go through the same rigmarole that Israel's going through right now with, this might cause other people to jump in. Oh, this might cause an escalation. Oh, it has caused an escalation. If you haven't noticed what's going on with Israel, it's like, of course, over the first week, it's like, if they do that, then somebody else is going to respond. If they do this, somebody else is going to respond. They did this. Now somebody else is responding. Now they did this. Now another group might get into a war with them the next week. Oh, now they're in a war with those people. But if they launch back, then this other party is going to do it. That's going to happen with North Korea next. That's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And this is from years of following this stuff. I really do think, I really do think that this is what's going to happen. But I'm only a human being. I'm not perfect, and I'm not a psychic, so we'll see. But the DMZ is a 2.5 mile wide buffer zone between North and South Korea, who are still technically at war. They never ended this war. The war, which originally had Russia backing up North Korea and the U.S. backing up South Korea and other parties. In that war, they have never signed a peace treaty. The DMZ is split into two, with each side controlled by the respective nations. This recent activity is unusual, according to experts. At this point, we can only speculate that North Korea is looking to strengthen its military presence and fortifications along the border. Is this because they're about to strike, or is this because they think that we're about to strike? Mind you, the North Korea firing the first shot, that may be a Fantastic Freddy, where it actually is somebody else, three-letter agency, making it look like they fired the first shot. Then somebody can go in and take them out, because now they're very close with Russia, and they want to cut out that middleman between China and Russia. If there really is still a battle for this hegemony, and it's not all just run by a group of people that are above all of these countries. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Dex, do you have any theories about the wall?
It's absolutely a setup for conflict. I mean, look, they're not going to go build a wall. This whole area is so dangerous. The DMZ is very dangerous. It's full of landmines that have been placed there from years ago. It's not an area in which they really want to go into unless they have to. And we even reported they've had multiple casualties due to accidental North Korea has had them. So for them to go in and do this, it's a pretty big deal. It's not just like, oh, it's every day they're going to go in, but you see there's multiple pictures, multiple locations where the before and after in just a short period of time, from in the last 6 months, they've gone in and cleared forest lands out, put in walls, started to create stuff. This is all in preparation for conflict. They're not doing this just to chest beat. This is the type of activity that requires a lot of effort and work. So they're doing it, and they don't think that the South is necessarily going to invade them. I think this is they're getting prepared for something they're doing. At least that's my take on it.
So, what do you think they would do with an offensive wall? So they would jump over it, but then leave it so nobody could roll back in on them? Or do you think?
I think it's a defensive wall to defend their area, but I think there's going to be something offensive on their part.
Do you think they're going to? They could use their artillery. Do you think that this is to fight against tanks rolling over to take out their artillery?
Yeah,
I mean, they have jets.
It's for anything that can come across on the land. That's what they're preparing for in advance. Again, it's not like the South has been claiming it wants to go take the North. Outside of the reunification projects where they've talked about, collaboratively having reunification, which the North has now completely dropped. And now, the division between the two is stronger than ever. One side of this being backed by Xi and Putin and anyone else that aligns with them. Those sides are much more in a position to be taking territory. I mean, look at it. Russia taking territory. China taking territory. Okay? Aggressively moving in. Venezuela taking territory. The West is not, well, I don't want to say we're not, because we have in other situations, and you could easily say that even Crimea was one scenario and the opposite. But when you look at least, say, the South Korea or Japan or others, it's not like they're trying to take territory. They're just trying to either deal with a tiny disputed island that is being taken by the other, or they're trying to exist. And I personally look at this and think, and this is just my opinion, that the North is getting ready to do something, and they're getting ready to do it because they are the end of the puppet string for both Xi and Putin. And there's something about to go down, and it all probably circles around Taiwan. And that's why everything's getting heated up in the Philippines, and everything's going to start getting heated up in Korea with the North and the South, because it's the ultimate distraction, and the split of U.S. Capability will now be split in two in the Pacific, and making it difficult for us to come into Taiwan and deal with the third.
And these simulations that they run, people don't hold too much weight, but these are serious simulations. These simulations have done very well in real world scenarios, as far as the many think tanks and I don't even know what they call the institutes that do these actual simulations of what would happen, right? China has them, Russia has them, the Pentagon has them. All three have shown that the only way the U.S. loses is if we are split between more than one major peer-to-peer adversary. So, meaning China and Russia, or any combination of other major superpowers, right? So, isn't it kind of strange that that's exactly what's going on right now? Everybody is trying to take their neighbor. Venezuela out of nowhere, which Venezuela is heavily apart. This whole thing, if you haven't seen videos, by the way, Raker Muck has been doing great videos over on X. He is actually on the path through the Darien Gap, through all of that. There's entire camps set up, and these aren't people that are staying there permanently. These camps are set up for people that are just coming through. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people that are coming through. Why are there so many camo military hats on these 18 to 25-year-old men? Why are there so many camo backpacks? It's not so they can sneak through the fence. You could say that, but then you see clips of them wearing bright orange lifesavers every time they cross a little tiny part of the river. Like, if they were trying to hide, that would not be the case. who owns a good chunk of camo stuff that's not, living in living in the Midwest? Like these are folks from China that are heavily garbed out in camo, and they're coming through. Venezuela, the connection between Venezuela and China is so close. Iran and Venezuela, Russia and Venezuela, Cuba and Venezuela now, and of course North Korea and Venezuela. Everything is connected. All of these places, every event that's going on in the world is connected to Russia and China and the U.S. and all of the NATO countries. It's allied versus adversary, and each party on either side is connected to either one of those. It's really, really clear what's going down right now. I can't see any other view. I'm trying to see, like, I have a really good friend. I do believe, and I trust this person, and I think they're incredibly smart, and I think that they have predicted a lot of stuff in their own right. They think it's just going to be a power struggle and a power change, and a shot won't be fired. I don't think so. I would love to see how that happens. Now, before we move on, again, one of the first things that would happen if any of these things went down, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, if any military tries to take your country out, the first thing they're going to do, like any military operation, is try to take off your lights and your communications. It is the first thing that will go from the internet, cell phones, transportation, power. That is first thing. In every war we have watched, and if you've been around this planet for more than a few years, then you know every war, they go after power supply. An EMP strike would be one of the best ways to do this, because they could knock down our entire grid here in the U.S. They could knock down grids all over in other countries as well. Same tactic, with a single explosion over the middle of the country that takes 0 lives offhand. Again, you can actually protect yourself against an electromagnetic pulse attack, and that's exactly what it is. In fact, it will protect you against multiple EMP attacks. This is an EMP shield. It's the same company that's outfitted agencies like DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team with the Texas grid. And it's very easy to put in your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, ham radios, pretty much anything that you want to protect, including your home, you can get an EMP shield for. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. The best part, though, is that this is also for Carrington-level events from the sun. This can protect you against the solar version of these, CMEs, or, again, a Carrington-level event, a huge, huge solar event that could knock down all of our grids. That way you could get out and bug out. Your vehicle would still work to get home, to bug in, or your home and everything plugged in within 250 linear feet of where it's wired in would all be protected. So this is a really, really, really cool device, and it is going to be a lifesaver. I know those of you that have been with us for years, you're like, I already know this. But for the 1 or 2 people that might not be, I hope that you do end up checking into it, because it's something that you won't need until you need it, and once you need it, you're going to thank yourself for doing it. And then the White House calls Intel chair's comments about Russian space nuke program irresponsible. So, Dex, why did they call him irresponsible? And the whole thing surrounding this is
and it's back in the
alarming
news
in itself,
too, right? I mean, isn't that interesting that all of a sudden this is coming back in the news? So, a little reminder, folks. Earlier in the spring, the congressperson from Ohio, Mike Turner was his name, is chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, went public saying, hey, there's this weapon being launched from Russia into space that's going to do a lot of damage. And it turns out, as the story evolved, it was a nuke in space, basically an EMP. I don't know why they would never say that, but that's what it was. And it all followed along with some specific rocket launches. One that was for the military in Russia, followed by like a short, less than a week later, a quick rocket launch from the U.S. with a military payload on it that went up, that was secret. And this was part of that happened around Valentine's, I believe it was, and then it carried into the spring. So look, that's the original story. So if you don't remember, that's what they're talking about. So then it came out today that representation from the White House is saying, hey, Mike Turner should have never done that. It's irresponsible to put out that type of intelligence and share that type of information with the community. It should have been retained privately. So I don't know why. On one hand, I understand how there is, you need to have a certain layer of confidentiality and certain things you got to keep secret, and top secret or whatever for a time period.
Loose lips sink ships.
Yeah, but at the same time,
this is a big ship.
He was also trying to alert our allies, as what he was also saying. He was saying the public and the allies need to know what's going on here. Because he thought it was very detrimental and serious. And then apparently he got shut up pretty quickly because all of a sudden that story stopped. And again, they never used the word EMP. And we all know the nuke in space to take out satellites is an EMP because that's been proven. Starfish Prime, they launched one, they tested it, it knocked out power in Hawaii, flooded all the power lines there, and took out a whole bunch of satellites. And they're like, whoops, we shouldn't do that. That's a big mistake. But now we know what it is. And then, of course, Russia actually tested a handful of theirs over Siberia. It had the exact same effect, but their information was never publicized, only leaked out because they don't share their information. So anyway, long story short, that's what they're talking about here. And they're just trying to push this back down and put it under the covers. They don't want everybody to know about it.
Yeah, and John, or you could look at it and like go, okay, so maybe it's because a reporter said, hey, what do you think about, everybody's forgetting about this comment. I didn't see the comment that led to John Kirby saying this, but John Kirby saying this confirms, and they know what they're doing. These guys are media trained. They know, this guy's him and the other guy, I call him used car salesman. They're the worst. Like, they know how to spin anything into something else. They know how to avoid every question. They can avoid a question. These guys are masters at getting around any kind of question asked. They just answer it with a question. Well, everybody knows this. Why did he point this out? And he's confirming what Mike Turner said. Mike Turner said that we need to declassify this now. Says, don't panic. We told you when this happened, we said, when the government tells you not to panic, that's when you start prepping. If you're not paranoid by now, it's too late. This is something that it's very creepy. It's being brought up 4 months later and being confirmed. Or is it being confirmed as part of a propaganda? We're getting closer to in 5 months from now. What happens in 5 months from now? You guys all know. Do you think everything is going to go smoothly? Do you think if the majority of people really do want to switch things up and don't want to go the same 4-year route, do you think it's going to go smoothly? I don't at all. Even people that are very high up, people that are buying up every farmland in the country, that are funding, projects for cricket food and all sorts of stuff. The people that are not only, inked in on all of the top secret stuff, the people that have been connected to the government since 2004 are building $270 million mansions. The people that have more government contracts than anybody in the world are trying to get off the planet or build tunnels with their boring company. I mean, literally, what else would you do with those boring, machines? DUMBs, like deep underground military bases. Ever heard of it? You think that Boring Company isn't doing that? I mean, like, it's not just for the Hyperloop, which, by the way, nobody ever talks about the Hyperloop anymore, but yet they still have the Boring Company buzzing around. At the same time as, like, the whole country says, oh, our neighborhood's shaking, but nobody knows why. We keep hearing booms, but nobody knows. Something massive is happening, and I think it's easy to deny because people are like, if it's that big, how could they hide it? I think they've practiced for I don't know, hundreds of years on perfecting hiding things. They've also perfected purchasing all of the right media, all of the right outlets to where you literally can control information, because information is a weapon. And if this was an analogy, it's basically being held to all of our foreheads. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments down below. China, this is why we've been, and it's gonna, the closer it gets, it's like we knew this 5 years ago, all of us in this community. We knew this. Your friends and family members that you've already warned about EMP and CME and stuff, if this thing goes down, the first person they're going to think of is you. They're going to think, oh, John was right about this thing. But how much is that going to help them in that scenario? Oh, wait, they're not even going to take time to think that. They're not going to say, oh, John told me about this. They're going to think, oh, I got to get to John's house. And within minutes, you're going to hear, John, I'm sorry, I didn't prepare. I should have listened. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's go over to the chat and say hi. What is happening? I know it's a lot of scary stuff, but let's be positive. Make sure to push each other up. We've got Fractured Fusion. We've got Michael Close. Let's see here. Jason Shandor. We've got Hart Salvia Z. James McGowan. What is happening? Paul Saul. Scratch. I think reversal. Pole reversal? Hey, you might be right. I wouldn't be surprised by anything at this point. I also wouldn't be surprised if it's all of the above. Isn't it wild that we have so many kind of events that if so many people are talking about it and it never goes to sleep, those are usually the events that end up being true. Well, what if all of it was happening at the same time? Thank you, says Get Will Marv. Hey, I appreciate that. Pena Perspective, Captain Opana. What is happening? 3-kid mom. Nice to see you. Yes, it is the best chat ever. Hi, Adam and Fugle fam. Diane Whitlock, Brian Knight. Don't be part of the mass psychosis. I think by saying don't be part of it, you're probably a part of some sort of mass psychosis. Even if you're the person who says don't believe anything, then you're part of another mass psychosis. That's the thing. If you don't admit that you're probably being manipulated in some way by something right now, then I think you're lying to yourself. I know I've been manipulated by this media. I know I've been manipulated by the messages out there. I know I've been manipulated by TV and video and all of this. And all of you should know that too. It's really hard to hear somebody say they've got 100% of it figured out. I don't think that's possible. I just don't. Brian Knight says, I'm here to help you. Hey, nice to see you. And Moon is rotating. I don't know. I didn't catch the rest of it. I can probably guess what the rest of it was, though. And 2001 event was a blank. Yeah. I'm glad that people still share stuff about 2001 on X. They share videos, 5-minute breakdowns of like whole kind of montages of everything that, we all found out about in 2002 and 2003. I'm glad people are still keeping that alive. Johnny Ditto, what is going on? And Mitch Mount says that's why you need the Bible truth. Billy Jack's Wild America. Commercials equals basic mind controls. Correct. Randy Man, what is going on? B. Blake. Hopefully, Randy Man, you could stick around for at least a little bit longer. I know if you're getting tired on the East Coast here, it's midnight. We'll get right back into it. China tells U.S. it would prevail in a Taiwan conflict without using nukes. So they're getting more and more confident every day. China tells, of course, us that, hey, we've got this. The U.S. and China resumed semi-official nuclear arms talks in March for the first time in 5 years, with Beijing's representative telling U.S. counterparts that they would not resort to atomic threats over Taiwan, according to 2 American delegates who attended. The Chinese representatives offered reassurances after the U.S. I thought of Locutus from Star the Borg. U.S. interlocutors? Look at that word, interlocutors. 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 I can't say it.
Who's breaking out the dictionary now?
Interlocutus. Okay, well, just you guys.
Why would they use that word?
I would say you guys know what I'm saying, but I don't think you do. Because what the hell does interlocutors mean? Do you know what it means? You probably do. What is it?
It's a person. No, I didn't know. I had to look it up. It's a person who takes part in a dialogue or conversation. Why can't they just say the people talking?
Because every
the people having a conversation.
Because every writer wants to set them aside, and I bet you AI or something. They said they probably had AI rewrite this article, and they said use highbrow. Wait, let's see who's writing this? Which paper? You're active, like Europe. You're active. I don't know them. I just wonder because what I've noticed is since the AI thing, and a lot of people, they might be writing kind of a basic thing, but then they'll put it in AI and then they'll rewrite it and they'll have it sound smart. But have you guys not noticed in the last year? And I sure as heck do, because I have to read it, and I read. And at periods, you're supposed to stop. And at commas, you continue, and there's a way you're supposed to talk. Nobody knows how to write anymore. They do run-on sentences. It will go, this entire paragraph. Actually, this is one of them. Look at this. Not a single period. The entire paragraph. The U.S. and China resumed semi-official arms talks in March for the first time, with Beijing's representative telling counterparts. All of this, the periods at the very end of the thing. Like I said, I think this is AI. Nobody knows how to write anymore. You're supposed to have a cadence and be able to read it. And if a news reporter was to read it, they'll know when to stop and when to go. But if they keep going and they're just like, people will run out of breath because there's no stop. I think people are getting stupider. I think we are in the movie Idiocracy. If you've ever seen that movie, you are awesome. If you haven't seen that movie, you need to, because it is a documentary about what is happening right now. But yeah, I think people are getting stupider. Stupider is not a word. That's proof, okay? But you guys get my point.
But that word would have been better in this article than interlocutors.
Interlocutors. You're an idiot. Go interlocute something. Raise concern that China might use or threaten to use nuclear weapons if it faced defeat in a conflict over Taiwan. Beijing views the democratically governed island of its territory, and a claim rejected by the government of Taipei. It says, quote, they told the U.S. side that they were absolutely convinced that they were able to prevail in a conventional fight over Taiwan without using nuclear weapons, said scholar David Santaro. Now, I also wonder if they're also saying, like, yeah, they probably could take the island. They're 100 miles off the coast, and if they already have their ships on one of these drills and they start it off of one of these drills, that's why. Think about what they're doing right now. Every day they're flying 30, 40 planes over. And it's like they're constantly doing that. One of these days, they're going to go all the way over the median line, go into the EZ, go into the ADIZ or whatever, and then they're going to fly over and drop bombs. And at the same time, they're going to have landing ships go onto that first island. It's all going to be done by the time we find out. If we're not there already, which there's a lot of theory and speculation that we already have thousands, tens of thousands of troops there, possibly over 20,000 there. If we're not there with our ships and our carriers and everything else, then of course they'll take it. They won't need to nuke anything. They'll be able to take those islands. I think the statement should be, we'll be able to keep Taiwan without using a nuke. That I think should be the point that they should be making. But they're not. So yeah, I think they could take Taiwan without nukes. Why would they use nukes if they're trying to take the island? What, are they going to nuke all of Taiwan? Taiwan's how many miles long? I mean, I guess you could use some small tactical nukes, but it's like medium-sized nukes would take out the whole island, or at least a chunk of it. So I don't know. I think you could look at it multiple ways. Dex, it definitely shows that they're getting more confident, though.
Well, yeah, as much as they practiced taking the palace and taking all those locations and having all of the replicas built, as others have speculated and studied, they can seize it in 30 minutes. I mean, 30 minutes is pretty quick.
Yes, it is. I'm going to show. I'm going to show that. I'm going to show that replica of Taiwan. Yeah, this is their replica. So this is what they're training on. This is the real thing, and this is the training grounds. So they've actually made a mock building. You can see here's the real one, Ministry of Foreign Affairs right there. And then here's their training building. So they're actively training to take over the country. They're actively training with life-size replicas of Taiwan locations, and they're practicing every day. The scary part is we know they're going to take Taiwan, or they're going to try at some point. Nobody really argues this point. In fact, all of the Pentagon says it's just a matter of when, right? The only person that says it's not happening right now says it's happening in 2027. They also are doing this same kind of practice with these same kind of models and these same kind of replicas with what else? Do you guys remember? U.S. carriers in the desert. In the desert, they have life-size models that are exact replicas of our carriers. And somebody came in the chat last night, said, China's not our enemy. I don't know. If I went over to somebody's house and they had a picture of my face and darts, like straight up like 100 darts into my face, and then I look over and they have a punching bag with my face on it, and the punching bag's like beat up to the point where the sand is coming out, I'd probably go, that's my friend. I don't need to worry about you, do I? I don't know. Maybe this guy doesn't like me. I don't know. But I'm just an idiot. The U.S. Air Force says the military's new dogfighting AI fighter jet pilot is making a dramatic advance from one test to the next. I don't doubt that at all. And everybody saw in Top Gun, if you saw the new Top Gun, they say, hey, what you're one of the last aces. It's all going to go to AI here soon. Scary but true, and it's exactly what's happening. Human pilots are going to be a thing of the past. Not to mention, human pilots have always limited what they could do with these jets. Human pilots pass out. Human pilots can only take so many Gs. AI can take a whole lot more. But these dogfighting drills and these dogfighting things that they're practicing with these unmanned jets, they're getting absolutely crazy. There's very few clips of it actually happening, but these things can do some amazing stuff. And think about all of the coolest tricks a human being can do, like Blue Angel type stuff, but like even better. Then think of AI that isn't worried about losing its life and could do exact measurements with other planes. Think about a squad of planes being able to coordinate and fly inches away from each other. And even if they do hit each other and crash, billions of dollars lost, but no life lost. So they could really push the risks. Heck, these things could fly 10 feet off the ground, and if they hit a phone pole on the way to bomb something, then they hit a phone pole on the way to bomb something. But they could do that, whereas a human might say, we might want to put it up a little bit higher. These tests apparently are advancing incredibly, incredibly fast. So, Dex, as far as the ACE programs, the real aces, they're probably going to be a thing of the past pretty soon here.
Well, and the technology's come a long way. Look, I mean, we've talked about this before. They've had advanced autopilot capability on planes for quite a while, and they've even had the ability to have them auto dogfight and take over when a pilot blacks out, things like that, F-22s, etc. That type of tech, we're talking is old. So can you imagine what they're doing today? If we've been doing that already, and I could only imagine how much computer equipment it required on say an F-22 or an F-35 to process that. Yet fast forward to today with these faster chips and everything from NVIDIA and all that that's being used for AI computations, how much more powerful and more compact, which is probably why we're seeing this advancement. And this advancement is not just about advancing some new future super jet that's coming out. This is about how do we take everything else we got and make it capable of flying autonomously. If they can, grab all the F-15s, the F-16s, and heck, even go back and grab, old things out of the boneyard if they needed to, and they can put, a computer system in it or upgrade the computer system in it so it can fly autonomously. That is, a good use potentially, or able to recycle and reuse that tech and put it into, drone situations or situations where you can fly them unmanned and let them do thy bidding for thy master, so to speak.
Now, this is Edwards Air Force Base. For some of you military there, so is this for the soldiers? It's got the child development, the base. This is on base. Are those trees or are those bumps? Like, is this landfill that they were like, hey, let's make a golf course? Or is this just for the base? Like, I guess, is this a normal thing that they throw this in so the soldiers have something to do? Or is it because of the area or what? Dex, do you know why they have the golf course at the base?
Probably a lot of officers there.
So the same officers that probably do the rotation that after they leave the military, they go straight into one of these massive monster corporations and then end up once they're they go for the corporations, then they run for office. And then when they run for office, they cut deals and pass bills to help the corporations. It's like the rotating door. These same kind of guys that hit the back nine in between running the planet, right?
I mean, if you're flying an F something, when you get back down, you want to go shoot some, you want to go, hit some golf balls, right?
It's a weird looking golf course. We pointed at that the other day. There was like in the middle of the desert, how much water it must. I bet the golf courses won't shut down, but yet they're shutting down farmers. They're shutting down small farmers, small businesses, people that their livelihoods depend on it. They're saying, oh, yeah, you can't water your farm. Systematic shutdown of the chain. Texas is working with 5 other states, leader says. So just recently, this last year, a movie called Civil War came out. Have any of you seen it? It's one of the movies I recommend to people that have to watch all those kinds of movies, but it was actually a pretty bad movie. Even though I love that kind of movie, it fascinates me to see the visions of some of this stuff actually happening. That movie was just corny. And they had a hidden message in that movie. It was totally biased. They had a secret hidden message, subliminal messaging in it. But that movie shows Texas getting together with California. I wonder if that's one of the 5 states. Now, secession is something that we have talked about for 6 or 7 years because we've actually had Fugel family members. We had one gentleman who came on the show who was the lead person of California exiting, but he knew all the people from the Texas, secessionist movements and stuff. I interviewed him when I first started, and he definitely filled me in on like a lot of the reasons why. Obviously, that a lot of these states, they don't want to be a part of the entire system, right? But Texas nationalists are coordinating with secessionist campaigners from 5 other states who are also interested in breaking away from the United States. Where do you think we'll be in 30 years from now? Do you think that do you think we'll still have 50 states? That's my question to you. In fact, we may be doing a poll here in just a second. Dex, do you think we'll have 50 states in 30 years from now?
Well, we may have more if they they ever get around to Puerto Rico and DC, which I know they keep pushing for DC, but I don't think that's really what the question you're asking me. And so sorry to divert, but yeah, I mean, look, there is so much division in our nation that it is very likely. It wouldn't be unfathomable to think that we could have a future where there's, a break apart of some sort in the U.S. And it's not unfathomable to think that a conflict in a great world war could cause that too. I know we've looked at that scenario. We've talked about that scenario many times. And so, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But, there has every year, every so often, every so many months, we will hear about this movement from Texas. And I guess a lot of people from Texas, and I don't know the exact law. I've read it a little bit in the past, but there's some, because of the way they joined, they weren't acquired. They chose to join. Some claim they have an option or an opportunity to succeed and secede, I should say. And then others claim it doesn't actually, it exists, but it doesn't actually apply because of the way the laws are now. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, don't understand it. But it does come up a lot. It does come up a lot. And the other thing that's been coming up a lot lately is just even at the county level across states. We've seen people in Oregon trying to join Idaho. We've seen, people in other states trying to join other states because they don't like what's happening or how their state's being run. So that's another big one that is also happening.
And I'm surprised that this hasn't happened in Washington, because in Washington there is just like a straight up split. I shouldn't say that, but most of the east of Washington thinks one way, and then you've got the west of the country, or I'm sorry, no, it's actually reversed. You've got Eastern Washington that is completely one way, and then you go over to, it is the West. That's never mind. You've got the west side of the state that is like the complete opposite. Basically, everybody on the coast is like that. Here in Washington, it's like if you go to somewhere like Seattle, obviously we make highlight clips of the craziest people every week. Like the people that are just super extreme, they're on every street corner in Capitol Hill. But when you go out any further out to the sticks, and I'm actually surprised that people consider this a state where, somebody couldn't win it. I don't fully understand how that even works, because I feel like we almost have more people that would support one way than the other. But it's the most populated, really, big cities that are all this way. And then, of course, almost everywhere else, it's totally different. One thing I could see, though, is civil conflict happening just everywhere. It wouldn't be this state versus that state. I could just see just everybody started going ham, just riots on the street, anarchy. And it's being pushed. It feels very artificial. It feels like it's being trained into people. Look at how much people, even in every community, it doesn't matter how tight the community is, everybody fights just nonstop. It's really bad. And then Southwest Boeing 737 plunges within 500 feet of Oakland neighborhoods, setting off emergency alarms and terrifying residents who feared it was going to crash into their homes. I saw a video of this, and when I saw the video, I was like super not impressed. I'm like, okay, it looks low, but I guess the looks are deceiving. It really was super super low. There's a Ring doorbell camera of this thing coming in, and honestly, because the bright light is heading towards the camera, it doesn't look. It's not like something out of a movie or something out of Station 11 or How the World Ends, where the plane goes right by the window. It just looks like, a low-flying plane. But this thing, you have, again, a Boeing plane dropping 500 feet. How many people want to fly in a Boeing plane right now? I don't know. I have to say, I think Boeing is not as bad as they say it is. I think something is being pushed. But what sucks is, even if you think that that these are, that they're faking this for some reason, it's like you still don't want to be on whatever plane they're faking it on. Like, I don't want to be on a plane that drops 500 feet all of a sudden. And in some cases, they've talked about how they drop. They literally drop. They're not like nose down going down 500 feet. You're talking about like free fall for a chunk of time. That other one that we talked about, the guy ended up hitting the top, and I think, one of the people ended up perishing because they hit their head. Didn't we also cover a story where people flew into the top of the plane and somebody also died just recently?
Oh, yeah. Wasn't
that just like a couple weeks ago? Where their head went into where the oxygen masks were? Like that's just... I don't like flying already. I don't know how many of you guys like flying, but I guess right now it's like they're, I don't know, trying to destroy the airline industry. Dex, you pointed out, though, that this is like the craziest. There's more people flying than ever before right now. Didn't they just hit another record, like all-time record? And of course, every holiday season, they've got these crazy travel times. But do you wonder if that's going to change very soon here with all of this negativity or negative coverage of flying?
Well, I think it comes down to, I don't think that people don't want to fly. I think people like it. They may not like it right now because of all the scary things, but I think, the whole idea of being able to go long distance in a short amount of time is something we've evolved to be normal. And I think there's plenty of people out there, whether it be for business or even travel and pleasure, that want to. And I don't think that the only reason that would not be something that's desirable to a large amount of people here in America, at least, and even the rest of the world, where people can afford it, would be if they can't afford it. Now, but if all of a sudden all of our planes, and it doesn't really look like that, it only looks like one, it only looks like Boeing is being hit, because it's not like you're hearing problems with all the other major manufacturers. You're not hearing issues with, the Canadian French company. You're not hearing issues with China's planes. You're not hearing issues with anybody else's planes. It's just Boeing. They're like getting hit left and right. So, I don't know if it's a scare tactic to get people not to fly, or if it's something more specific towards Boeing, or if they're just at fault for just being dumb, which just doesn't seem like them. They've not, they've been around for a long time. They should know how to run their business.
Sorry.
Bless you.
I tried to mute it. Sorry. Man. I just I hope these antibiotics kick in, man. Oh, this sucks. And it looks like Elon Musk just added Melinda French Gates to his list of billionaires' ex-wives who might be the downfall of Western civilization. Now, Melinda French Gates is from here, from Seattle, along with Mr. Billy. She's from Yakima, Eastern Washington, or the family is. And obviously, we all followed the drama as they split up a while back, and I think a lot of people know probably why. But apparently, Melinda French Gates has given her first presidential endorsement, and Elon isn't too happy about it. It says, quote, might be the downfall of Western civilization, Musk said in response to an ex-post by the Babylon Bee staffer Ashley St. Clair about French Gates' endorsement of President JB. French Gates, of course, endorsed JB in an ex-post published on Thursday. She says, I've never endorsed a presidential candidate before, she wrote, but this year's presidential pick day stands to be so enormously consequential for women and families that this time I can't stay quiet. So, I don't think she's going to help. Well, I guess she could technically. But that's actually kind of a big thing that Elon hasn't straight up said one person or the other. Have you noticed that, Dex? You don't really hear about Elon taking a direct side. He just kind of, has Elon ever endorsed anybody?
I thought I heard him say he wasn't in favor of either of the two back when the primaries were still running, in hopes that somebody different would be in there. But I have a sneaking suspicion that if it comes down to these two, he's going to be on the side that will talk to him because he's a businessman and he wants to make money. And his, specifically the Tesla group, has had zero communication and involvement with the feds when it comes to what they're doing with, electric vehicles and all the activities they've done. They've invited every other car manufacturer for these big roundtables, all this stuff, and they just completely leave them out. Like they just isolate them and like they don't even exist, but they're so much larger than the rest. So I think, that would be my opinion of if he was going to pick a side between the two we have, the two major runners we have right now, he's going to pick the one side that would actually talk to him, as much as he may not be in favor of either of those two people.
Well, now, no matter what you think of Musk, his Tesla revolutionized electric vehicles. How JB could hold this huge summit with all these companies that are putting out failure after failure. Some would argue Tesla's Cybertruck and others are partial failures as well, or complete failure, depending on who you talk to. But if you look at some of these Chevy or GM and some of these other electric trucks and things out there, it's like nothing but negative. Meanwhile, Tesla, the actual company, besides Elon Musk, they revolutionized a ton of stuff. They brought out stuff that really changed the whole game. They're pulling politics. The fact that they do this stuff with our future. I mean, the fact that our future is politicized. They talk about politicization of everything. They're politicizing our entire future. That's in the dictionary. That's scary stuff. That's like things that have happened in history kind of stuff when you do that to this point. And then dead Tesla traps toddler in hot car, raises concerns about electric doors. So I have actually thought about this before I ever heard of any issues with this, but I thought, what if the car dies and you can't, if the doors are locked or something? I've thought about this, and this is a really, really sad thing to happen. Now, of course, it says that automotive technology continues to advance across the entire industry. Electronic door releases are one part of that wave, and in some cases can increase safety. At the same time, they pose a significant danger to young ones when the battery of the car in question dies. One Tesla owner in Arizona just found out while narrowly avoiding catastrophe. And again, they don't always. Renee Sanchez was about to take her 20-month-old granddaughter to the Phoenix Zoo after safely strapping her into her car seat. Sanchez went to get into her Tesla, but then realized that the EV was dead. Her granddaughter was now trapped inside the car with no way to easily get out. Now, with a situation like this, with electronic door releases, I think of how they are going to make all of this mandatory. If you have electronic door releases, you also have cars that are on the Internet of Things that could be hacked, could be stopped, could be brought to the police station if they find that there's somebody in that car with a warrant. That's terrifying to me. And we know that they're putting these systems in. They're putting these systems in under the guise of saying that it's to fight DUIs. Cameras in your cars, which of course Tesla has cameras everywhere, but they want special cameras. They want even sensors that if you smell like booze, it won't drive. Or it has cameras that watch if you fall asleep or how many times you blink. If they detect that you're about to fall asleep, it will have you pull over, or it will not let you drive. These are the systems they want in place. And they say, we'll bring it, everything down to zero. Those same systems could be hacked. Those same systems could be used by the government. Say if somebody's on the most wanted list, they could literally snatch that car and say, lock the doors and drive them right to the police station. I think that's the stupidest thing, not to have a manual release everywhere. And again, if they, and I don't know how many cars actually don't have a manual release, but again, Tesla and other automakers with electronic door releases have manual releases that owners can use from inside the cabin. At the same time, several owners don't know where the manual releases that come with vehicles are with electronic door latches. With the toddler, even if they knew where it is, they might not be able to get to it. I had to. We had a similar situation when my 18-year-old was 2 or 3. This was about 15, 16 years ago. And it was an older BMW 525i, and it was my uncle's car. And she was in a car seat in the back. And back then, you could lock your keys in the car, and legit, it would be locked in. The keys got locked in, the door just barely closed, and she was too young in the car seat. So we had to break the window. We only waited about 10 minutes because it was a pretty warm day. So we just broke the window. But in cases like that kind of stuff happens all the time, and it's really terrifying. But I wonder where it could go when they start controlling these things, and when they can turn them off, and when they pass bills and laws that give control. And they'll do this, and people will be demanding it. In fact, watch 2 or 3 toddlers or something lose their lives. They start giving up access to this. Say, oh well, local authorities should have access to every car through a specialized system, so that the police can go and release the locks or lock it. Like that. This kind of stuff is I don't know how we're going all electric. I don't think it's I think there's going to be a lot of hiccups in the beginning. And then Dex, do you want to talk about Wall Street's planned theft of America's lands and waters?
I guess this is that. This is an interesting one. This is kind of a touchy subject in the sense that there was this conversation going on about moving the public lands and any type of natural asset of value into a corporation and putting it up on the stock exchange, so to speak. So a very interesting article. It's obviously cited against some topics that are kind of hard to discuss on the platform here, specifically around what goes on with weather and whatnot. But nonetheless, what they're talking about is this rule they're trying to create that could pass later in the year that will literally allow them to take things like, a national park and turn it into a natural asset, and NAC as they call it. And if you open the other document, I guess you can sort of see a graph that'll show you what it sort of looks like, in the sense that you identify a national asset, you then turn it into a corporation, and then you license it, and then you can capitalize and market that asset. And if you look at what they're trying to tell us, is like, hey, this is a good thing. The purpose is, of the companies to actively manage and maintain and restore and grow the value of the natural asset. And the NAC funds would primarily be used to meet the responsibility of that asset. So, sort of like, think about that national park down the street. Well, it raises money. It has a value of itself. It has employees that are there that run it and take care of it. So instead of letting, say, the federal government taxpayers fund that, why not put it into this natural asset where it has value, gets traded on the stock market, and has a board, and it generates its own money, and its own revenue, and it has its own value based on the land itself, and then that becomes its own entity. The crazy thing is, then when you see that happen, is the big worry is that all the big money of Wall Street, all the big money like the Black and the Rocks and the others that are all tied into that, all come together and start investing or putting all the money, and they start owning those assets. They start buying up those assets,
and they start having a say
to our natural assets, and then they have a say of our
with our parks.
Lands.
The reason why Dex is like, I guess, because this is I didn't recognize the title, because this is different. So I wanted this to be out.
This was yours, right?
Yeah, because I found this, and I only found it because AJ was talking about it, and I think this is terrifying. And of course, because he's talking about it, there's going to be a stigma around it. But in this case, the he's right jar is filling up. Like, do you see how this works, right? I mean, this is very simple. This has a very big open door to go really, really wrong. And then look at all the farmland being bought up. Every piece of land is going to be owned, and none of it's going to be just an open, like, oh, this is. Do people not see what's happening to the dang country? Like, it feels defeating sometimes, right? It feels like we're up the biggest uphill battle of our lifetimes. It just sometimes, you can't lose hope that things are going to turn around, but I was just telling somebody else this. It's like when something loses on X, we were talking about Disney, right? I'm not going to get into the politics of what Disney's been doing, but Disney is definitely not something like you shouldn't have to worry about putting on a video if there's going to be any kind of controversial things in it. Period. Even if you don't take a single side on what they're doing, or there's some people that are like, all of the things that they're technically doing, like, I don't see a problem with that. I think it's good. It's the fact that it's so overly forced and it's so reversed. One thing I wonder is if we're going to wait 150 years until now, because now the things that are coming out is that if you are a person like me, and I mean like me, exactly like me, then you're not going to get hired at certain places. They're saying that specifically. You're not going to get that promotion, not going to get it, not going to get this. They're saying it's because all of these years that this has been reversed. Okay, so the people for 150, 200, 300 years discriminated, did this horrible thing. So now they say, well, we need to change this, and we're going to remove them out of the picture. Even though somebody was born, they might have been born in Africa. Come over, if they're that color, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter that they grew up in somewhere completely different. If they look like this, then they're not going to get this position. They don't want that look. In 150 years from now, is it going to reverse again? And then they're going to be like, hey, you guys were the R word for 150 years against us. They say they have made an actual argument, and I don't know how they did this in colleges. Well, I guess I do, but Do actual incredibly smart people around the world think that it's not the R word to judge somebody purely based on their appearance? Think about what we teach our kids not to do. Like, you teach your kids and you say, hey, they say, that person's this. No, don't say that. Don't judge them based on what they look like. You guys know, I get on some of like people that you would think that like I don't kiss people's butts, even people in our own community. Like, I've called people out and go, even people that everybody, I know that people are going to get on my ass for saying like, oh, that's part of our community. You say that about. If they pick on somebody just because of their weight or just because of this or just because of that or just because of that, I'm the first person to be like, why are you pointing that out? Like, that has nothing to do with it. All these X accounts that literally for like 4 weeks, they all just copied each other posts of they'll take a TikTok shot of some a bigger person doing a model shoot. And I'm like, what is the point of this? Like, what is the actual point? Is it just to make fun of them, or is it just to point out like, oh, they're saying it's, sexy to be big or but whatever? And some of them, they don't even have a message. I can understand if you're saying, oh, they're big, and they're saying big is beautiful and you should be big, then yeah, that's a bad message because no, it's not healthy. But at the same time, if you're literally taking something outside that message and you're just taking somebody big and you're laughing at them because they're saying something totally normal, like they're doing a video reviewing something, why are you doing that? They're not saying big is beautiful. They're reviewing something and you're just pointing out somebody because of how they look. In 150 years from now, is this going to be reversed where now all of a sudden for 150 years, a certain person, because of the shade, they didn't get jobs. They didn't get this. They didn't get that. And they're openly saying this. And they're saying that there is no such thing as being a certain way towards somebody like myself. I think that's insanity. I think it is. I don't think that's right. And people are afraid to say it now because they don't want to get canceled. I think that no one should judge another person by purely how they look. Ever. In any case. Why is that not the general rule? I don't understand it. And all of us have been guilty of doing it. It's not like any of us are perfect. We've thought it. We think it. But that's not what's right. And once you do, you feel bad. I don't understand what's going on with this, with all of this, with our country. And even thinking that now is looked down upon. Like, oh, you think our country's going to crap? You're one of those. What do you mean one of those? Some of these things are non-arguable. Like, you try to argue this with a debate team, with even college students. If it's going on a point system, you're going to lose this argument because there's no argument for it. And I don't understand how somehow that they did do these arguments and somehow won and said, this person can't be this towards that person. That doesn't make sense. Somewhere in it, they're changing definitions to actually make that possible. They're actually changing pure facts, like known facts. I don't understand it. Do you guys get it? I don't. Craig Alicious says those Boeing astronauts are still stuck on the ISS. I know. I bet Elon's going to go save their butts. Who knows? But who knows? Maybe they won't invite him. They'll just leave him up there. I think most of his rockets are white, so yeah. Can't have that. All right, and then...
Hey, Adam, real quick, though, on your topic that you were just talking about, it seems, and this is my perception from what little I was researching, because I know you were all over this one, it seems like they're using this idea of blight or of inability to take care of, or all of our lands are going to, go in the crapper, so to speak, if we don't do something like this to take care of them. In other words, like we don't take care of the lands. And I think that's like the storyline they're using to make everybody go, oh well, that sounds good. You've got a solution. Yeah, we'll sign up for this. I don't know. I
When
don't know
in
what your take
reality,
is on it,
they
but
said we couldn't
it,
go to them for a year and a half. They said you can't even go
yeah,
to your public park. No wonder they fell apart.
yeah, exactly. So
It,
I thought it was odd. You always got to look at when you see something so horrendously crazy, you have to sort of look where is their silver lining, because they always have some sort of silver lining where they're trying to, pull the wool over everyone's eyes as to why to do something.
problem, solution, reaction, right? Is that how it goes? Problem, solution, reaction, or problem, reaction, solution? Yeah, whatever it is. They make the problem and they give you the solution. And then they react. I don't think that's how it goes. But you guys get you're catching what I'm throwing. You're batting what we're pitching. I don't know. That might be some sort of slang. You guys get it. And then Putin says Russia may deliver weapons to North Korea. Before we talk about this, I do want to remind you guys, make sure to go and check out Energy. Again, this is one of the best solar generators on the market. I shouldn't say one of the best. I believe this is the best solar generator on the market. I have tried at least 3 of the competitors, and that's only because my friends are preppers. One of them I did get to try because they were at a conference. But as far as the competitors, if we talk about the countries that are trying to basically have a monopoly on lithium right now. And if you look at any of the competitors that can do what this can do, and maybe some of them you can even get on Monday or you can get tomorrow, Prime or something, then you're going to be getting something that has a questionable value as far as reliability. Could it be turned off remotely? Will it last a couple years, or will it die within the first month of working? You don't have to ask any of those questions with this. These things are tough and they are made right. If you remember how appliances used to be made back in the day, you bought it once and you kept it for 30 years. That's how they used to be made until companies realized that if you make them like that, then you'll never have to buy one again. I've told you my friend has a 1960s toaster and it still runs. It still works. He still uses it. But again, they don't make toasters like that anymore. They make toasters that break after 2 or 3 years, so you have to buy another one. This thing is not like that. This is meant to last a very, very long time. Steel reinforced frame. Of course, it's got built-in heaters into all of the batteries. This is the Flex Tactical. So this is the one to brag about to your friends, that it's tough as nails. It's got a 1,500-pound latch system, and it can be expanded up to 96 batteries. So that's just 2 batteries pictured. So if you can imagine how big 96 batteries would be, you can make a whole wall. Or you can, say, unclick that bottom battery, take 1 battery, go and use it at work, charge your tools, use it to power a TV and an Xbox in a campsite, play movies on your garage for your kids or something. The cool thing is you can use it for everything. When your power goes out because of a local storm, bam, you've got power. Not to mention, you can charge it from the wall. So even if you don't have solar panels, you can charge this and keep it ready for a power outage if you just want it for that. Or you can get yourself solar panels where you're going to have unlimited power as long as the sun comes up the next day. They even have systems like the rapid charger and the supercharger where you can plug in 12 panels instead of 4. The panels are easy. You don't have to figure it out. If you can figure out Christmas lights, you can figure out solar panels. You plug 1 solar panel in. If you want 2, you daisy chain it. Just like Christmas lights, you plug 1 into the solar panel and then plug the other one into the solar panel that's already plugged in, and so on, and it goes up to 12. It's super, super easy. It's turn on and go. You push power and it's working. It's 3 buttons with a battery attached. It is super, super easy. 1 is power for the unit, 1 is power for the line, and 1 is power for the battery. That's how easy it is. Plug things in and power comes out. So very, very, very cool. And it is silent. Nobody's going to know you have it. Nobody's going to know you have power. And you can run it inside. Whereas, of course, gas-powered, obviously you're going to have to acquire gas. You might have barrels and barrels of gas, but how long is that going to last? Once it runs out, are you going to be able to go to the gas station in an SHTF situation? Probably not. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Not only are you getting a big discount, this is way better than any donation to any channel. Go to their affiliates. If there's something that you need and that will help you, this is a way better to do it, way to do it, because you're getting something that you'll be able to use all the time. Use when your power goes out, use when you're camping, use whenever. You get it for a discount, and you're helping an independent channel at the same time. So I think it's a really, really great way to do things, not only with us, but with any creators. Go check out their affiliates. We don't get paid to talk about these. We get a commission if you do go get one. But again, I use this thing all the time. I use my Flex 1500. I use my X2. They're amazing. And I wouldn't say that about any of their competitors, because I don't trust their competitors. So go check them out. Again, code Marfoogle. It will get you a discount, and it will help us out. And then as far as what has been going on with all of the Putin says Russia may deliver weapons to North Korea. So I won't go into too much detail because we did a short video over on Marfoogle News about this, but essentially Putin is saying that they may be delivering high-tech weapons to North Korea. Dex, you and I have been talking about this. It looks like North Korea, I think, I don't think you've ever said this directly, but I think that North Korea is going to be the first one to pop off. And it's going to be as part of like a puppet scheme to separate, like what we were talking about earlier. And I think that Russia is essentially helping with that. All of this is they're all going to get really interconnected now.
That's not, it's not unimaginable. I certainly think that's quite possible. They seem to be the one with the most activity. They've got the most, light on them as it relates to both from our adversaries and from ourselves. And look at the actions and activities that are going on. So yeah, it could easily be them. I think we covered a lot of the different scenarios. We talked quite a bit about what's going on with this in that new short, and I think that new short's really important for people to share. That's why we do those on the other channel, is so that we have a smaller piece of content that's easy to share out. I know when you guys share a hour and a half or 2 hour long video with your friends and family, they probably are like, whoa, that's pretty long. I don't know that I want to invest. Totally get it. But yeah, it was a great conversation we had. It was over on Marfoogle News. And yes, this topic specifically about not only what Putin is threatening to do in North Korea with weapons, but what he's also threatening to do with his nuclear doctrine and changing that, and how that will affect and potentially bring about the use of nuclear weapons sooner rather than later.
Essentially lowering that decree so low that basically we've already surpassed it, that they are going to get to the point where they're going to use some sort of nuclear weapons. Now, I wonder if that would include an EMP weapon that's already up in space. And that is what we believe. We both it's pretty safe to say we both believe that they've already launched a EMP into space, a nuclear EMP into space. So I think that's what's going on, and maybe it's a setup, maybe it's orchestrated. I don't know, but I do know that I'm not going to be surprised by it when it happens, or if it happens. So I hope that most of you wouldn't be either. Even if you don't believe in it, you say, it's never going to happen. I would hope that you would still at least, try to get a little basic prep going, and just be open-minded to the very small potential that it could happen, and prep accordingly. You'll be better off even if you don't do much compared to the majority of people in the United States. Most people are worried, probably sharing clips of people getting their heads taken off by DOT trucks rather than talking about, geopolitics of the world. I know all of us are not like that, but again, by the way, in other news, a mobster, Tony Cakes in New York, horrible video. I saw it before it was censored. I didn't realize what I was looking at. I was watching and I go, oh my gosh. The guy gets the top part of him taken off by a DOT truck just crossing the street. And the DOT truck, I thought by hearing what happened that he was going like 80. He was going like 5 miles an hour. He was just turning the corner and apparently caught an 87-year-old Tony Cakes, a mobster. And I said, man, is that karma? Is that God? Is that something? Like, if that guy whacked people in his career or treated people like crap or did horrible mobster stuff, it's like he might have got back what he deserved. I don't know. Or was it man? Did somebody pay the guy to do it? The guy that did it, he was on his knees crying in the street. I would be too if I found out I did that to somebody. Holy moly. Just horrendous. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. We'll talk about more of it when we get back. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And may see you on the weekend over at Marfoogle, News. So join us. Thank you, Dex, for all your service tonight.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Thank you over on D-Live for Kimbria, Captain Morgan 2311, Kimbria Poco Loco. Thank you guys. Craig Alicious, Andrew Golden, thank you so much. Stephen McMahon, and everybody else that joined us in chat. All right, and yeah, we're going to get out of here. It is time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. By the way, I just want to remind you, if don't get in the same position that I am and have to go to the freaking ER, I would have started stuff. I knew I should have done. I knew I should have had this on hand. Go over and check out Jace, marfooglenews.com/Jace. Get yourself a pack of emergency antibiotics. And you can, of course, get the Jace Daily too, a year's supply of whatever regular medications. Again, board-certified doctors. Go check it out. Love you guys. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.